A caregiver recently said, "I never thought my elderly parents would live this long." Well, there are two sides to the story of living too long. This subject can relate to family caregivers who accept responsibility to care for another person without any type of written agreement or a contract that specifies what the caregiver will do and for how long. The subject of living too long, though, it also relates to older adults who are experiencing a lot of health issues or just continual life struggles. Those who run out of money to pay for care. During the time that I managed care for the elderly, some of my clients actually said to me, "Oh, I don't know why I am still around." This living too long topic, it can relate to length of life in years, being 50 or 60, 70, 80 or 90. But more often it relates to quality of life where there can be a lot of age-related debilities and difficulties. These are things like health conditions, heart disease, dementia or Alzheimer's, arthritis, osteoporosis, kidney disease, cancer, all other types of health conditions. And what this really means is that living longer may not be spent living better. If you have a lot of health conditions and this results in poor health and significant physical disabilities or challenge so that you can't do and enjoy the things that you want to do. So, stay with me while I share two actions for you to consider. The first is, instead of thinking about living too long, why not think about all the things you want to do before your life is over? Kind of like creating that bucket list. And second, practical insights about where you might be if you are in the situation of, "Oh, I didn't think my parents would live this long." Or you're the person who has health problems and you're thinking, "Oh, not happy about my life. How much longer am I going to live? I don't need this. I don't want this." If this is your first time on my channel, I'm Pamela D Wilson. I'm a caregiving expert and advocate who helps older adults and their caregivers navigate all of the health, financial, and legal aspects of caring, including complex family situations. I do this through virtual consultations and education. I also serve as an expert witness for attorneys and family members in cases of elder abuse, guardianship, conservatorship, a lot of issues. Below this video, there's links to my website about my professional background. Please do click the button, like this video, follow my channel, comment, even if it's only to say thank you. Your comments help other people find their way here. So let's begin about just talking about the common frustrations that result in people thinking that, living too long. I'm living too long. My parents are living too long. This living too long is not enjoyable, right? So it's things like, for older people mostly, sometimes younger people, but lacking energy. You're exhausted all the time. You get tired easily. You just can't think of doing one more thing. Now, this can also result to caregiver burnout. If you are an older person, or even if you are the caregiver, are you hiding or denying that you have problems, health problems, financial problems, problems managing day to day, such that your problems are kind of in the background, but they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger until something happens that one day you're going to have to deal with them? If you're an older adult, are you having difficulty with self-care, getting dressed, buttoning buttons, doing zippers, pulling shirts over your head, putting your shoes on, showering or bathing safely, walking up and down the stairs? You drop something and you have difficulty picking it up. Do you lack physical strength or endurance? This is a big one. Do you sit around all day instead of getting up and getting out and doing things? Are you so physically weak that you are a fall risk so that you avoid doing physical things because you're afraid of falling? Well, that just creates more risk. And because you lack energy or you tire easily, maybe due to your health problems, you can't get out or you don't get out. So things you used to do, you don't do anymore. Friends you used to see, you don't see anymore. You don't socialize. You don't get out and do anything. And so you've become isolated. And this goes for older adults, but also for caregivers. Are you so focused on your life and taking care of someone else that you have become socially isolated? You've given up your friends and your activities and your interests. And so both you and the person you care for are thinking, ugh, this is just living too long. This is not an enjoyable life. If you're an older person, are you having difficulties caring for your house, repairs, maintenance, cleaning, or the yard? I can tell you that I drove through an older neighborhood the other day and I was just kind of looking around, and there were some homes that were so well taken care of. The yards were beautiful, the houses were beautiful, and then in between these beautiful houses, there was a house maybe where the grass was dead or the yard was full of weeds or trees or bushes were overgrown and the house had peeling paint and the roof didn't look so good. Some of those homes, I suspect, belonged to older adults who could no longer physically take care of them or who no longer had the financial means to pay for upkeep or repairs. Those people probably should have found a different living situation. So these concerns can translate to unrealistic expectations on the side of the caregiver and on the side of the person needing care. Because remember, we're looking at this from two perspectives. Caregivers, so because a spouse or an elderly parent may need hands-on care, so things with bathing and dressing and cooking meals and grocery shopping and all that kind of stuff. And this is because the person who needs care can't do these things for one reason or another. So the caregiver may have an expectation that if I help, right, my spouse or my elderly parent is going to try to do as much for themselves as possible. They're going to try to help themselves. They're going to take an interest in this. But it doesn't always happen. In reality, this person needing care who can't take care of themselves starts to rely on a spouse or a family caregiver to be helpful. And then over time, the person who needs care becomes more reliant. Well, I don't have to do this anymore. This person's going to do this for me. So then the family caregiver, in a sense, is providing an assisted living level of care or a nursing home living level of care. But without that help, without that care, this person could not be in that house. They would have been out months ago, years ago, right? And so this is not acknowledged. So this assistance transfers into expectations on both sides. Expectations by the person who needs care that the caregiver is always going to be there. They're always going to show up. They're always going to help this much, and they're going to continue to help more and more and more and more and more because that's what I need. Now, the problem here, in many cases, because I know this when I talk to families and caregivers, there were never, ever any discussions about health and caregiver assistance and the length of time and what that looked like. No discussion. And if it was discussed, maybe it got forgotten, right? So what happens is the caregiver gets burned out. They have their own health problems, maybe job problems, maybe relationship problems because of this time in their life that they're trading to care for another person. And the older person receiving care now has an unrealistic expectation because the caregiver already did this, right? It's like, well, if they did it, they're just going to continue to do it. So we have all these unrealistic expectations where both sides are thinking, oh my gosh, living too long is a problem. So how do you avoid getting into this situation in the first place if you are early in your caregiving relationship, or maybe you are not even there yet, right? So caregiver, older person, be proactive. Take an interest in life. Learn about business and education and religion and spirituality, nature, theater, culture, hobbies, everything. Be a lifelong learner. Do not withdraw from life because there are some things, let's be honest, that may be difficult or that we don't like or that we don't think are fair. Instead, be open-minded, be flexible, be curious. Seek to understand all perspectives. Kind of like the topic of this video, living too long, right? We're looking at it from the perspective of the caregiver and from the perspective of an older person who may have health problems. Recognize there are two sides to every issue. And it's important to learn both sides because you may actually, believe it or not, agree with the other perspective if you learn what that is because you are inquisitive. So become so interested in topics and aspects of life that honestly, you can't imagine sitting around all day doing nothing or becoming isolated, or you're looking at your friends who are out doing all these things. Well, join them. Go do things with them. Become more like them if that's what you want. Do something that interests you. Find things that interest you. And if you're at a point where you've lost interest in life, well, that's another subject. Why is that? What changed? Figure it out and then do something about it. Become mentally, physically, and socially active. Choose to do that rather than complaining or blaming or thinking, oh, my life is the pits, I'm living too long, or you're constantly worrying about taking care of aging parents and you wish you had all these other things that you could do. For everybody, remain as independent and self-sufficient as possible so that you rely on yourself, not other people, so that you don't need a caregiver, but maybe you need occasional help with something. Help other people, but only to the degree that it doesn't harm your life and your health and your well-being. Because through all of these positive activities, you're going to bring more happiness and more positivity into your life. You're going to think less about living too long, but rather you're going to think about all the things that you want to do before your life ends. If you are the caregiver, you got to be realistic about your goals and where you spend your time. Because where you spend your time and what you think about is going to be your life. Don't overcommit to care for another person because of expectations or cultural beliefs or it's always been done this way. If you're the person with health issues, understand the effort you put into paying attention to your health and well-being is going to impact your life. And this is for everybody, even if you don't have health issues. So let's now look at number 2, which is practical advice if your situation has become a living too long issue. Don't put it off. Start having conversations today about how health and other issues have resulted in this need for care. Have practical discussions about the impact of being a caregiver and doing all of these things has impacted your life. Develop practical solutions for the person who needs care and for the caregiver. Stop transferring responsibilities to another person to care for you or expectations or things like that. One way you can do this is to create a contract or an agreement on paper. This avoids expectations because you're putting them on paper and you're actually agreeing to them. As a caregiver, I agree to do this. As the person who needs care, I agree to do this. Avoid verbal agreements at all costs because this may only cause more conflict, and hold each other accountable. Now, this does not apply to situations of dementia. If the person who has dementia, if their memory loss has progressed and they can't do this, okay, this would be before that happens. For everybody, be proactive about your health at all ages. This requires being interested and taking action to learn about the impact of health issues in your family that may be genetic, the impact of any health problems you have. Learn how exercise impacts your health, nutrition, socialization, how your health insurance works if you have a job, how health insurance works after retirement, which is Medicare and Medicaid, and the importance of saving money to remain independent and pay for care costs. Then take all of this information and knowledge that you gained and make a plan, put it into practice. Because what good is living longer if you have no quality of life? This is the question of living too long, right? Make good choices today so that you have a better life tomorrow. And it's not that unexpected things don't happen. They happen all the time. You know this, especially if you're a caregiver. It's how you respond to those unexpected things and how you choose to continue to live your life. Caregivers, care receivers, take an interest in life instead of dreading life. Learn new habits, investigate new things, consider doing things you've never done before. Make an effort, make friends, socialize, find a new purpose for living. Then you'll never think about living too long. I thank you all so much for being here. I'm Pamela D Wilson. I'm a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. Go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, to find a lot of helpful information. There are also links below this video to pages on my website. Please do like this video, follow my channel, share these videos with other people that you know, and comment even if it's only a thank you. Your thank yous help other people find their way here. I look forward to seeing you all again soon in another video.